Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Nonprofit Show. We're really excited to have our guest today, Shahar Brukner, on. He's the CEO, let me back up. He's the co-founder and the president of Impala. And we're going to have a really fascinating discussion about wealth screening and what donors are doing and who can really fund your mission. Shahar, I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Same here. Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to be somewhat mysterious to a lot of our viewers and listeners because we know about wealth screening, kind of, sort of. It's a mysterious thing. And so we're going to dig into this. We get to dig into topics and have guests like Shahar on each and every day because we have amazing partners. And they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, and Intuit QuickBooks. I'm Julia C. Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. And I just want to give us a shout out, I should say, a little pat on the back. We were just ranked #1 best philanthropy podcast in the US by Million Podcasts. We were ranked against 100 other podcasts, and we're really proud of that. So thank you very, very much to Million Podcasts for that. Okay, Shahar Brukner. I am so intrigued by your story and your business as the co-founder and president of Impala Digital. What the heck is it that you guys are doing over there?
First of all, Julia, thank you for having me. And before I start speaking about myself and about the company, also congratulations on winning the #1 podcast. I think it's an amazing achievement.
Thank you.
A bit about myself. I'm the co-founder of Impala. Impala, what is Impala? Impala is a data platform for the philanthropic and nonprofit sector. So you can think about many, many other platforms that we have for other industries. Think about what Bloomberg does for public markets or Crunchbase is doing for startups. We aim to do for philanthropy. And the idea there is that we bring in a lot of data, and I'll speak a bit about it more, to answer pretty much any question that nonprofits have, philanthropic foundations, grant makers, advisors, and pretty much anybody that has a toe in the philanthropic and nonprofit industry. The way that we measure ourselves and the way that we think about the product that we build is, are we giving data that allows people to make better and more impactful decisions? If we are thinking about it in the realm of the nonprofit sector, then it ties very quickly into fundraising. Are we allowing them to fundraise better? And Julia, this all connects to, I started the company after like a personal goal of mine. When I came to the United States, I started a nonprofit. It gives scholarships to young students, and I ran into many, many questions that we are going to discuss today that I just couldn't get an answer to, like who's giving to what I'm doing, how much, when, how much can they give, how can I connect with them, and things like that. I didn't really have a good answer. So it took me, I thought it would take me 3 months to fundraise. It took me about 18, but I managed to do it. And then I met the other side, funders, foundations, donor advised fund holders. I saw that they have problems and understood that we can build here something for both sides. We've done that, and today we're serving more than 10,000 nonprofits, almost 2,000 philanthropic foundations, grant makers, advisors. It's going pretty well.
You know, it's so interesting, Shahar, that, and I hear this from a lot of founders of nonprofits, that they start off with so much passion and so much drive to do something fabulous for their community. And then they just get hit by the realities of fundraising and how they have to build relationships. And sometimes it's really heartbreaking because they're like, I'm doing the work of the angels over here, but I'm so stymied and held back by this other piece, which is major. So that's why I'm excited to hear what you have to say, because I sense that a lot of people watching this episode and listening to this episode will be like, yeah, that's been my problem. I have a great idea, but I don't know how to execute it with what is going out. So let's start and have you explain to us what are the issues with traditional wealth screening? Like, how does it work, and what do we get when we use wealth screening tools?
Yeah. So let me actually take us even one step back, and where does wealth screening lives in? What world are we speaking in? I'll put it in the world of prospect research. When we're doing wealth screening, we want to understand whether a specific prospect, I mean, what's the level of the wealth, how much can they give, who do they give to in the past, and we're looking for indicators that will allow us to understand and answer that question. But prospect research is actually broader than just that. I'll put wealth screening under the area of capacity. How much capacity does this donor has? But capacity is also a bit more than wealth screening. Like, are they giving to new grantees? Is a question of capacity. Are they giving grants in the sizes that I'm looking for? Is a question of capacity. Because if somebody is a multi-billionaire, but they only give grants of $5,000 to a lot of organizations, maybe the capacity is not there. But capacity, again, is one bucket. We're also thinking about two other buckets. One is alignment with my mission. Do they care about what I'm doing? I'm giving scholarship. My organization is giving scholarship. Do they care about scholarships for students? Another organization will focus on youth education. Do they care about that? So alignment is also a very important thing. The last one is relationships, which I'll weave in a bit into the whole prospect research question. But if I'm getting us back to, so under prospect research, we have capacity, alignment, and relationships. Now we are zooming in into capacity and to wealth screening. Really, the basic question that we are trying to answer here as fundraisers is how much does this person or entity or foundation has? And obviously the question is how much can I ask for, assuming that they're interested. Now, traditional wealth screening is looking at either very direct measures of wealth. You know, Julia just sold her company. How much did she get? Maybe Kevin has a house in the Hamptons, and this gives me a proxy to understand how much they have. Where do they send their kids to school? Things like that, that basically are either a very direct measure of wealth or a proxy to the fact that they have wealth. I think the first thing that is missing from that, and that's a very, and you have many platforms that do that and give you that type of information in varying degrees of quality. Two things that we built Impala always. We built it with feedback from people who actually use it. So we create advisory groups of people. Our tool, Impala for Fundraisers, we built with about 25 of the top chief development officers in the country, and we asked them, how are you using these tools? Many of them told us immediately what's missing from those tools is not just how much they have, but how much they give, and in what kind of way do they give through a philanthropic foundation. And then I need to go through a big staff in order to get a grant, and I need to jump through several loopholes. Is this person individual? Do I somehow need to get to them in order to ask them how to receive funding, and things like that. The second thing is, and that's probably where I'll focus most of this conversation, because this is where we went, is do I even have a relationship with this person? Julia can be the richest person in the world, but if I can get to you, then probably like your wealth doesn't really matter to me. I'll even say something that one of the chief development officers told us, which in my opinion was very interesting. She said, for me, if someone has a relationship to my organization through the board or through a donor or for whatever, they automatically become a prospect. So we all know philanthropy runs on relationships, but thinking about the relationship as the thing that makes someone a prospect, even if they can write only a small check, I think it's the right thinking, and I think it's an interesting thinking. But we'll dive into that a bit more.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I think that we have become in our sector so enamored by this concept of wealth that we forget about the relationship piece. Like, we don't even think it's important, basically. It's just like, who's going to write the big check and in theory solve all of our problems, right? So if we're thinking that, that is a systemic problem, down the road, I think. So that prospect, and you mentioned this, and I love that you have this theory behind, your company. More than the money that they can give and more than the money that they have.
Yeah.
You talked about some of these other issues like alignment. Um, Talk to us about some of those things. You mentioned, maybe where they live, where their kids go to school, what are their boards they serve on. Talk
Mhm.
to us about what that might look like and what we should be looking for.
Yeah. So I'll say, first of all, I'll comment on the thing that you said, that people, I think, in a way, discount relationships. For my
Yes.
experience, it's actually less discounting and more, it's a bit more mysterious to them. So every fundraiser that I'll speak to, and I'll ask them, okay, what's your best fundraising assets? And they will tell me people who already care about me, people in my board, people that are donors, people that are actual supporters of my organization. So they understand that this level of relationship is important. And then we'll ask them, okay, so how do you utilize this asset? And they will tell us, we'll have a quarterly board meeting, and in the board meeting, the whole board will come together, and the last 30 minutes would be focused on fundraising. And I'm the chief development officer, so I'll come and I'll ask them, who do you know? And Julia will tell me, Shahar, I know 5,000 people. It's not a very good question. And that's a real answer. It's not because they don't want to help you, it's because it's a question that is too broad. So now the question needs to become, can I somehow understand the relationship that my board or that my donors or whatever already have, and ask them in a very proactive manner, Julia, I know that you know A, B, and C in that foundation, or XYZ that just made a lot of money. Can you connect me somehow to them? Now, it's not just about making the connection. Because you are making it through a person who already supports you, you already passed probably the most important test in fundraising. Because if I'll call you and I'll ask you, Julia, I have an organization, it's amazing, can you please take the call with them? The first question that you'll ask me is, are you supporting them? And that's a fair question. That's not like
That's true.
that's a fair question, and you
Yeah.
want to know, and you want to basically see that I also have skin in the game. And the answer is yes, I do. And that's why I want you to speak with them. So I think that this whole concept of relationship, people understand its importance and they don't know how to tackle it. So what we did in Impala is basically said, okay, if that's the most important thing, let's try to break it down a bit, okay, and start to create in Hebrew it sounds better, but to create a necklace of connections, basically, to understand how to connect. So what we did is the following. We scraped every 990 of every nonprofit and every philanthropic foundation in the country. In those 990s, we have the board members, we have a lot of information about donors, grants given and received, people in the management, etc., and it goes all the way back to 2014. All in all, we collected information on about 16 million people, all in the US. Then what we do is we say the following. We built a pretty sophisticated algorithm that takes Julia Patrick from organization A, let's say that she sits on the board, and we take Julia Patrick from another organization, let's say that she's the CEO there, and our algorithm knows to match them to be the same Julia. The moment that happened, Julia is now an intersection of relationships between at least two organizations. What we also saw is that people who are involved in one philanthropic organization, a nonprofit, a foundation, tend to, it's a bit of an addiction. So they
Yeah.
tend to collect board seats and things like that. It's like networks that start to crystallize around usually major cities and geographies. So then Julia becomes a connection to a lot of organizations. If you extrapolate what I said over the entire nonprofit sector, you get something that is a bit like LinkedIn for the nonprofit sector. And then I'll ask, okay, I want to connect to the Ford Foundation. Everybody knows the Ford Foundation. Amazing. They give hundreds of millions of dollars. I can
Right.
go through the normal route of going to the website and asking for like the RFP or the open application and stand in line with 5,000 people. Let me tell you a secret. Even if you do that and your application is excellent, if you don't have a relationship to them, the chance of you coming up on the top of the pile is pretty low.
Right.
So now we can go through a more sophisticated, but also the way that actually philanthropy works. I'll see that I have Thomas on my board, and Thomas has been on my board for 5 years. It's a strong connection. It's someone that I can definitely pick up the phone and ask for. And then Thomas is sitting on another board with Ursula. And Thomas and Ursula sat on that board for 3 years. Ursula is a trustee of the board of the Ford Foundation. So now I can basically, instead of going through that not very direct manner, I can call Thomas. Thomas, do you know Ursula? Because I see that you sit on the board. So you give him something very, very focused. You're not asking him, who do you know? You're telling him, I see that you know exactly. That we call that, Julia, we call it paths, okay, between one another. And then you ask him for a connection. Now, there's very much a likely case where Thomas doesn't know Ursula that well. He doesn't feel comfortable. That's fine. We mapped already more than 213 million connections between these 16 million people, and we're adding more and more and more every day. I'll give you another thing. You can also add people, because we are taking this from public records. But you might say, yes, this is my board, but I also have a list of donors that give to me. I have an advisory board, which is not listed on the 990, and many, many things like that. So we started building this network algorithm that connects people to one another, and then it basically maps all of the connections that you have as an organization, therefore tackling this relationship piece. And we see how nonprofits use it. They come in, they used to think about, okay, let's see who's the biggest foundation or the biggest funder.
Right.
Let's see how much they give usually. But actually, now let's reverse it. First of all, who am I connected to? I'm connected to 14 foundations or donors that don't give to me yet. Okay. Now, how much do they give is obviously a very interesting question, right? I mean, I want large grants. I want basically something significant. But the reality is that if someone never gave you money, the chances of them coming in and writing $1 million check from the get-go is low.
Right.
You want to build that relationship.
Right.
So really the question for me about wealth screening is always, how do I build this first relationship, which can then hopefully evolve, and there's a lot of work that the nonprofit needs to do in stewarding these donors, even after they're supporting, to basically take it to the next level and the next level and the next level and the next level. But the first question is, what's the hook? What's the relationship that I already have with them? Mm-hmm. I think that this is an element that most people that even use wealth screening today is, I mean, they're missing that, okay? Because, I mean, for what I know, we're pretty much the only plan. I mean, we have that, us and relationship science, which is not really focused just on the nonprofit sector. But we're seeing great results. We're seeing a lot of people coming in, adding a lot of people to their platform, to their profile, and connecting to more and more and more. And now with AI, we are going to even improve that, because we're going to bring information from other sources like news and press releases and impact reports. So more is coming, and I'm excited about it.
You know, it's very interesting, because I feel like a big part of this discussion that we are in the midst of with AI and just the technological aspect of fundraising is that there are a lot of nonprofits and even fund development people that are like, okay, whew, I don't have to build a relationship. This is all going to be mechanized, and this is going to be easy. But I think, if anything, Shahar, this just brings it even more back to the value of the relationship. It's not quote unquote easy money, and that you're just going to get, checks in the mail. That it really is about stewarding a relationship, and I think making it move more quickly, because you have the information and you can get everybody kind of level set, if you will. So I'm fascinated that you have understood this connective tissue that we need to be working with. And we don't have a lot of time, but I want to end with this aspect of transparency and using wealth screening. How you use the word mysterious in the beginning, I've used it as well. How do we talk about this? Like, how do we pull this into the discussion? I've got to believe that there are people that would be shocked that this even exists.
So I'll say a few things. First of all, definitely with what AI is allowing us to do, I think it becomes more and more apparent that we have, some people will say it's unfortunate, but we have a lot of information available out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take another step and say that usually wealthy people, it's safe to assume that if you're a fundraiser, you are not the first person that they spoke with about supporting an organization or basically asking for their help and money.
Yeah.
Pretty used to that. Okay, so pretty used to
Yeah.
that. Now, I'll say that I think there's always this like awkward version here that you can come and say, "Hi, Julia, I'd love you to support my organization. I also know that you have a boat." Okay, don't do that. Okay, because I think it's something that is just not very good for the conversation. But I think we can work under the assumption. Definitely, if you're not speaking with someone who's relatively old, that they know that you have information about them. Okay, they know why you are coming to speak with them, and they know that you did your research.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, again, you can say that, okay, but I don't think that this is something that people expect. I speak with a lot of donors. I never got asked, how did you hear about me? Or like, how do you know about me? It's how, because the world exists and I'm working 24/7 to support my organization. So I find your information. I will say that I think, I mean, obviously, if it comes up, people need to be very upfront with this. I mean, we found your information here. I don't think that we need to gaslight donors, and it's something that if they ask, I will always say the truth. We're also getting a lot of requests from donors to basically remove their information on Impala. What we tell them is that if it came from public records, it will stay, because we want to help fundraisers and we want to make sure that they have access to this information. Last thing I'll say about it, which might take a bit of the awkward sting out of it, is again, I'm sorry that I'm taking it back to the relationships piece, but I think it's an important thing. If you come through a relationship, all of those questions move to the side, okay? Because somebody introduced
Yeah.
you to me. I know that person. If I took the meeting, safe to assume I trust that person,
Yeah.
and everything is now becoming a much more warm experience. So I'll say that, in my opinion, that's the best way to go. But yeah, I hope that this answers your question.
Yeah, it's very interesting because what I and I don't know, what I heard you say, and I'll rephrase it back, is that yet again, it falls under the magic of the relationship. And we worry about trust in philanthropy. We worry about trust in any business, for profit or nonprofit. Trust is such an essential tool. And so, if you do trust the organization, the development officer you're working with, the leadership, the board member, whatever, I can see what you're saying. How we get that basis of knowledge and information moves along. Also, I think if you are genuine and you are working to build a relationship, you do find learn new things about your donors.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
up to that development officer to be tracking that information, putting that into your CRM,
yeah,
making sure that you are keeping that information accurate.
yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Um, I'll also say that I think, I mean, where the world is going right now, you surfaced that notion of people now thinking that everything will be automatic and everything. And you implied in how you said it, and I agree with you, that actually the other way around. If it gets very easy to communicate with someone, just to get to them and to do something automatically, then the level of connection needs to go up. And I'll give you an example. I spoke with several foundations who used to have an open application process. Twice every year, they would basically say to everybody, we are supporting arts and culture in Boston. If you're an arts and culture in Boston organization, please apply to us. And they used to get, 50, 100 applications. And because the concept of what you said about trust and about respect, they wanted to respect the people that did that. So they read every application and they reply to every application. And from those 100, they would bring, I don't know, 60 to an actual conversation, and then 30 they would award a grant for. An amazing process. With AI, it became the easiest thing in the world to submit an application. From 100 applications a year, it jumped to about 1,500 applications.
Oh,
Many of them not connected at all to arts and culture. So then what did they do? They said, okay, first of all, let's use our AI to remove the applications that we don't think we should look at. And then when they're in that process, they're saying to themselves, what am I doing here? I mean, I wanted to build a process that is in trust and knowing the person from the other side, but now it's an AI speaking with an AI giving me something at the end. So they closed the open application process, okay? And they said, we will find a way to connect with organizations that we care about. And I think that's, I'm personally, I don't blame them, okay? People in the United States are generous. People in the United States engage in philanthropy in ways that are unprecedented, and that's amazing. But it doesn't mean that they have all of the time in the world. They're professionals, and we need to respect that. Mm-hmm. And then the relationships piece again comes into play, and like, okay, I don't need to go through an AI process that is flooding your systems. I can speak to you through a real person that knows me and knows you and can vouch. I think that's where the world is going. If I was a betting man, and in a way, I'm a betting man because I'm building this company on that principle.
I was going to say, you're betting every day that you get out of bed that you're going to be successful. So I get that. I really do. I have been so intrigued by this conversation. Really interesting. Wow. I don't even know what to say other than thank you, thank you, thank you. You've unlocked a lot of, almost I want to say, attitudes and ideas to the structural nature of all this data and the access to the candy store. Just because we have access doesn't mean that it's all going to be magical. We still need to be strategic. We still need to be thinking about that relationship piece and what is meaningful data and what is going to be meaningful to our nonprofits. This has been a fascinating discussion. We have been joined by Shahar Brukner. He's a co-founder, president, and CRO of Impala Digital. Wow, share this video with those in our sector who are doing development and struggling maybe with what does all this data mean, because it's really, I think, very clear the way you took us through this process, Shahar. Absolutely fascinating. You can also learn more about Impala at impala.digital. And there you'll be able to learn more about the company, who they work with. They have some great research and thought leadership on the process. And Shahar, you're somebody that we need to watch because things are changing so quickly that our discussion that we had today, if you and I meet up, and I hope we do at the end of the year, you're going to have new layers of things to talk about, right?
I think so. I think the pace of innovation is moving very fast. Yeah. I'm happy about it. I'm happy that we're building for nonprofits. And yes, I think that a year from now, it would be a very different conversation in a good way.
In a good way, right? I agree with you. I don't think it's all gloom and doom. I think it's really positive, but we have to work smarter and we have to understand what the frameworks are. And that's what you've done a beautiful job today explaining that to us. I've really enjoyed this. Again, Shahar Brukner, check out impala.digital. And I think this has been a fabulous discussion. I think the main word that I heard you say today, and it needs to be repeated, is relationship. relationship. That's not going away. And so how do we look at these tools? Fascinating conversation. You know, we get to have these amazing conversations each and every day with the Nonprofit Show because we have tremendous partners. And they include Bloomerang, American Nonprofit Academy, Staffing Boutique, JMT Consulting, Third Sector Company, Your Part-Time Controller, and Intuit QuickBooks. Most of these folks have been with us since we started. the nonprofit show. We're marching towards our 1,600th episode, and it's really cool that we have the support of these fine businesses. Um, Shahar, every episode we leave the broadcast with this message, and today I'm thinking about the health of relationships, and so it's really amazing to be able to say this to our audience, and it goes like this: to stay well, so you can do well. We'll see you again.